All right, so I moved down to page 140. This is a letter in the novel of The Witch of East Nashville by my dad, Stephen Eng, who appears to be enjoying listening to his written words. So this letter, Caroline's eyes open wide. My God, I don't believe this is original, but I guess it is. And it says London, 41D Park Street, 13 December 1837. My dear Mrs. Houston, thank you for your praise of my novel about the scientifically constructed artificial man. My late husband, Percy Shelley, encouraged me greatly, as did his friend Lord Byron. It's properly fiction. I am certainly pleased to hear that Frankenstein has sold well over the years at your city's Barry's bookstore. You have mentioned in passing that your former husband, Samuel Houston, was separated from you due to a physical element caused by a war wound that would not heal. That is sad to know about. Indeed, at least he became famous internationally with his conquest of the Republic of Texas. As for Dr. Frankenstein, the name was indeed fictitious, but some of the scientific experimentation was not. My late husband was fascinated with science, and he admired the great society of the Illuminati, about which he once wrote an essay. So I placed Victor Frankenstein at Ingolstadt, the same college where Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Illuminati, had taught canon law as a professor. The secret society mystery enticed me as I added the ancient philosophy to the faculty. In fact, my husband Percy had actually met Ralph Kauster, who had studied there and who was practicing the task of reassembling a human being from fragments of flesh. Well, it never seemed successful. I made it so in my novel. My book was initially urged by Matthew Gregory Lewis, who was the founder of fantastic poetry in modern times. The German poem of Lenore was one of his favorites by someone named Berger. You know this. Lewis was an early friend of Sir Walter Scott. Anyway, I'm quite shocked and perhaps pleased to learn of your encounter with Frederick Kauster, the son of Ralph, that he would come to your city with the covert plan of reviving my Frankenstein procedure is quite flattering. Whether or not it succeeds remains to be seen. At least he can utilize the surgical instruments of his professorial academy, your University of Nashville. I agree it is probably easier to exploit the corpse to make a new human being happen. Though I must admit, some of the British people are opposing the slavery industry. Some of us British people are opposing. Let's see, my own mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, has lobbied for the rights of women as early as 1792. As politics and military shenanigans prove, men are at least as stupid as women. But best wishes regardless to Dr. Kauster. If he can somehow create an assembled creature in respect to my novel, please encourage him for all it is worth. Women and men can work together. Yours sincerely, Mary Shelley. Caroline looked bewildered. Did you understand any of it? Asked Roger Levering with a grin. Well, that's news to me about Sam Houston's health problems. Must have hurt his marriage. Yeah, it lasted only 11 weeks. He walked out of his own governor's office thanks to his wife. Abandoned Nashville. He didn't mind slavery, but at least he tried to keep Texas out of the Civil War. But who's this Dr. Kauster? Did he really come here? Yes, he was an assistant professor for over 10 years, and he handed her a clipping from Nashville Banner Whig, August 13, 1838. University Medical Discovery. It is remotely possible that human life may be restorable, says University of Nashville medical teacher Frederick Kauster. Experimentation is rendering new discoveries unknown to civilization at this time, he added. Dr. Kauster has long been noted for his working with deceased slaves and aspires to assemble bodily pieces to form a new human entity. Such an achievement might be a new Southern history accomplishment, adds State Representative Walter Herkus. We may set a new standard unbelieved except in fiction, Herkus said, alluding to Mary Shelley's popular novel Frankenstein. Other doctors are condemning this procedure, however, as being risky and physically impossible, especially Dr. Frank Ferguson of the Tennessee Medical Forum. Combining body parts into a new creature is not only impossible, it is unchristian and a violation of God's permission to found this sacred nation. Regardless, Dr. Calster is proceeding with his humanization experimentation at the University of Nashville. Now that's something else, said Winston. Now I'm not defending slavery, but really our plantation owners wouldn't have wanted to see some new creature assembled out of leftover corpse fragments. There's limits to everything. Why are we looking into this? Asked Carolyn. Well, it's not exactly bicentennial commemoration, that's for sure, snickered Ralph Levering. Don't know what you can all do with this. Probably nothing. But the kids, they're making it into Halloween talk for tomorrow night. They got the rest of the story out of our file. So what's the rest about? Asked Winston. Any more letters from Miss Shelley? Or to her? Not that we have here. I've been told there's one which some family member has suppressed. Foolishly, it got into the Mid-State Library down from the Capitol. But the manuscript is off limits to the public, or even to the scholar. Supposedly too horrible. Gee, that's nice. What else you got to tell us? You ever heard of William Walker? Can't say that I have. Well, there's a historical marker to him down at Commerce Street at the corner of 4th Avenue North. He was born here and went to this damned university way before the Civil War. Then he invaded Mexican territory and finally Nicaragua. Got himself made president for a while in the 1850s. Anyway, he managed to revive slavery in Nicaragua. He thought the Southern boys would enjoy some new land to bring themselves down to, where they could warm up some new plantations. That's disgusting, Father. What's this got to do with Mary Shelley? Caroline said rather irritatedly. Suddenly she was tired of listening. Oh, the legend is that... Hey, Papa. Oh, the legend is that big fat businessman Alfred Morris went down there in 1856 with a brand new Frankenstein type of monster, constructed from dead slaves who'd been lynched up here for having spoken out on the side of the abolitionists. You know, those northerners who were condemning the slave enterprises? Hey, was Frankenstein the doctor or the monster? I always get it confused, cried Harry Winston. Oh, he was the doctor in the novel, but readers and moviegoers, hell, they'll usually call the monster himself Frankenstein. Kind of funny. I can't believe this. Do the kids believe this, or is it a joke to them? Asked Caroline. Well, they picked up an old article on it. It was in the old issue of the Southern Historical Quarterly back at the turn of the century. Pretty funny. He pulled it down from the shelf. Fall 1903 and opened to page 204. Frankenstein Revival thanks to Nashville's William Walker by Dr. Howard Peter Haynes, Department of Literature, Nashville Trinity College. Carolyn looked at it with amazement. This is your book. Is this a journal? Is this journal at the other libraries? Funny thing, its title is misleading. Was supposed to be a regional superlative periodical, but it went under some of the colleges withdrew, and most mysteriously, a warehouse with the back issues caught fire. It started in 1889, died in 1904. Can't find copies for sale anywhere, really, and yeah, the other libraries don't have it. Don't seem to want it. Sure don't miss it. Well, can I copy this piece? Carolyn was grinning, and she looked like she was really more jubilant than not with the latest outrageous topic. Oh, sure, honey, smiled Levering. Right there, pointing to the photocopy machine. Carolyn reproduced a 12-page article. Thanks so much. And, well, are you going to check out the Halloween show tomorrow? Carolyn tried to smile. She was getting sick of all this. Well, I don't know. Pause. Oh, where's it going to be? West of town and south somewhat? Up on Percy Warner Park Hill. That's a favorite kids' hangout spot. Believe me, they'll raise some spooky publicity. Gee, well, thanks so much for all this information. It's been good to hear you explain it. You'll have to read that article, Miss Burgess, How the Frankenstein Fellow Returned to Nashville. Carolyn flashed an even bigger smile, while tightening her fingers till she almost cut her palms with her nails. Out in the hall, she turned to Winston, saying, "Should we get involved with all this?" He laughed. "Well, it adds some amusement. Here we are, trying to polish up the local heritage for the bicentennial." And they want to drag in a monster for Mary Shelley encore. She shook her head. Well, I suppose I can't wait till Halloween tomorrow. Look, Carolyn, the U of Nashville is important. Somehow we got to pull it into our show. Why don't you read that little article you picked up and write a little paragraph and give it to the Professor Levering? Maybe it could turn up on the kids and remind them of us. We can use the connections with that university. Yeah, you can infiltrate that so-called research into some kind of a good story. Okay, I'll do some research. I must say, Nashville homemade Frankenstein type of fellow is a good thing for history and publicity. Then she and Winston walked through the rest of the university, picking up some pamphlets, all of the nicely boring quality, serious and respectable. Back at the office she got Back at the office, she got her message from Brad. He'd been coming by at 4:45. Idly, she began reading the historical journal. My God, she said to herself, can you believe they think this really happened? How could some professor confront this monster anyway? Honey, what's happening? Brad, just another day in Nashville. She handed him the photocopied article. More good history. Academically current. Good God, I can't believe this. Hey, I know I say it too, but please keep God out of your careless conversation if you don't mind. He has his place sooner or later in your speech. Well, he'll come in sooner or later if I keep reading this. This history looks better than some stupid horror poem. What do you think about this thing? I haven't finished it yet, but sentences like this do wake me up, even though I was getting pretty nauseated hearing about it in the collapse. She pointed to one paragraph. Appearance of an alleged monster at the Centennial Park aroused some journalistic curiosity in 1897, namely in the radical Nashville Weekly Worker, which supports the malcontented working class. Their testimony in November 3 issue asserts that within the Memphis building of the Centennial Park was seen a creature who allegedly was brought to Nicaragua to aid William Walker. Oh. Dad, your novel's too creepy for me to keep reading. I'm freaked out by that. I think I see where you're going. I think you're anti-racist, and you're pointing out that pseudo-academic medical science is often creepy.